The screams of the children echoed through the Galactic Council chambers long after the sound itself had died. At first, nobody moved. Not the silver-robed diplomats seated beneath the floating banners of 1,000 civilizations. Not the towering Varkul guards gripping plasma rifles at the chamber entrances. Not even the council executors standing beneath the glowing symbol of unified galactic peace. Because for one impossible second, the entire chamber froze beneath a sound no one in the galaxy had heard in centuries. Human fear. The council hall of Concord stretched for miles beneath a dome of transparent crystal, suspended high above the ecumenopolis world of Thesara Prime. Rivers of flying traffic streamed between colossal towers outside the glass ceiling, while stars burned cold in the distant void beyond. Artificial sunlight poured across polished black floors where ambassadors from hundreds of species watched in stunned silence. And at the center of it all stood the humans. Unarmed, outnumbered, surrounded. A little girl no older than 7 clung desperately to her mother's coat as armored enforcers marched forward through the chamber. Their metal footsteps echoed with mechanical precision, sharp, heavy, merciless. "Please," the mother whispered, her voice trembling. "She's just a child." No one answered. The lead executor raised a glowing decree rod, its crimson light reflecting across his pale alien features. "By order of the Galactic Council," he announced coldly, "all human minors are to be placed under temporary protective custody, pending compliance investigations." Protective custody. The word sounded clean, legal, civilized. But everyone in that chamber understood what they really meant. Sanctions, obedience, submission. Humanity had refused council control over Earth's outer colonies for too long. Their independent fleets, their isolated systems, their refusal to share ancient technologies. It had become an irritation the council could no longer tolerate. So they chose the one pressure point guaranteed to break them: their children. The little girl screamed as metallic hands grabbed her arm. Her mother lunged instinctively, only to be slammed to the floor by an energy shockwave that cracked across the chamber like thunder. Gasps rippled through the audience tiers. Several alien delegates turned away. Others watched with quiet satisfaction. A human man stepped forward from the delegation platform, fists clenched so tightly blood ran down his palms. Commander Adrian Vale, former Earth diplomat, former military, and in that moment every instinct inside him screamed to fight. But he couldn't. Not here, not now, because dozens of rifles instantly locked onto the human delegation the second he moved. The chamber light suddenly felt colder. Vale looked around the vast hall, searching desperately for even one ally among the countless faces staring down from the towering Senate balconies. He found none. Only silence, only fear. Only the sound of crying children being dragged away beneath the banners of galactic unity. Then something changed, subtle at first. One of the human delegates stopped pleading. Another slowly lowered her head. A third reached up and removed the silver diplomatic insignia from his chest, letting it fall onto the black marble floor with a sharp metallic crack. One by one, every human in the chamber did the same. No anger, no shouting, no threats, which somehow felt far worse. Commander Vale stared at the terrified children disappearing behind armored guards, and deep inside him something ancient began to wake. Something buried beneath generations of peace treaties, diplomacy, and restraint. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "You have no idea," he said softly, "what you've just done." Then the human delegation turned and walked out of the council chamber in absolute silence. Behind them, the stars above Thesara Prime continued to burn peacefully for exactly 9 more days. By the year 4821, humanity had become the species the galaxy trusted to fix what no one else could. Not because humans were the strongest, not because they ruled the most worlds, but because wherever civilizations collapsed, humans arrived quietly and rebuilt them. The great orbital rings above dying planets, the quantum gates connecting distant star systems, the atmospheric stabilizers preventing entire moons from freezing into extinction. Human hands had built them all, and yet Earth asked for almost nothing in return. From deep space, the human home system looked deceptively calm. Fleets moved in disciplined silence around Jupiter's shipyards, while vast solar collectors drifted near Mercury like glowing wings against the darkness. Earth itself shimmered beneath, white cloud systems and sprawling nightside, cities that stretched across Continents like constellations carved into the planet's surface, peaceful, controlled, civilized, at least. That was what the galaxy believed. Captain Elias Ward stood alone on the observation deck of the exploration cruiser Eternum, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him through reinforced crystal glass. The blue light from the planet washed across his tired face while countless holographic screens flickered around the chamber. Emergency transmissions, council statements, missing persons reports, children always children. The ship hummed softly beneath his boots as docking traffic flowed around orbital stations outside. Thousands of civilian vessels were attempting to leave the Sol system at once, creating rivers of glowing engine trails that cut across the stars like panicked veins. Nobody understood what was happening. Not fully, but everyone could feel it. The silence. Ward exhaled slowly and rubbed a hand across his jaw. He had spent 23 years serving Earth's Exploration Command, traveling farther into uncharted space than most humans ever would. He had seen civilizations collapse into civil war, seen stars implode, seen species driven extinct by famine and plague. But this felt different. Because Earth was afraid. And Earth never showed fear. A soft chime echoed behind him. "Incoming priority transmission," the ship AI announced calmly. Ward turned toward the central holo projector as static flooded the air. The image struggled to stabilize before finally revealing the face of an exhausted woman, wearing the dark uniform of Earth Defense Command. Admiral Sophia Wren, there was blood on her collar. Behind her, alarms screamed through smoke-filled corridors. "Captain Ward," she said sharply, "all diplomatic channels with the Galactic Council have collapsed. Multiple outer colonies have gone dark within the last 6 hours. We are initiating planetary lockdown protocols." Ward felt his stomach tighten. "Lockdown?" he asked quietly. "On Earth?" The Admiral hesitated. That hesitation frightened him more than the words themselves. "You are being reassigned immediately," she continued. "Return to Sol Command for briefing." Then the transmission flickered violently. For a split second, another sound cut through the static. Children crying. Ward froze. The image stabilized again, but the Admiral's expression had changed. Harder now, colder. "Captain," she said carefully, "whatever happens next, you are to follow command directives without hesitation. Do you understand?" Outside the observation deck, Earth turned silently beneath the stars. Beautiful, fragile, and somehow suddenly alone. Ward looked down at the oceans of his homeworld and felt an unease spreading through his chest like ice water. Humanity had spent centuries teaching itself restraint, diplomacy, patience, mercy. But he remembered the classified history files he once accessed during frontier operations. Stories buried beneath military encryption levels so deep, most citizens never knew they existed. Stories of what humanity used to be. His reflection stared back at him faintly in the glass. Tired eyes, controlled breathing, fear hiding beneath discipline. Then across every screen aboard the Eternum, a single emergency signal suddenly overrode all communications. White letters appeared against a black background. "Return our children." The message repeated once, twice. Then every human frequency across known space went silent. The disappearances began so quietly that most of the galaxy dismissed them as accidents. A mining station near the Varkal frontier stopped transmitting during a routine cargo cycle. A patrol fleet vanished while escorting diplomats through secured hyperspace lanes. An entire research colony orbiting the dead world of Kepri was found drifting in darkness, every corridor empty, every system still operational. Every meal half finished as if thousands of people had simply ceased to exist mid-breath. No explosions. No distress calls. No bodies, just silence. And across the Galactic Council, that silence began spreading like infection. Captain Elias Ward stood inside Sol Command's underground intelligence chamber as massive holographic star maps rotated through the darkness around him. The room itself sat buried kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, shielded beneath layers of military alloy and quantum encryption fields. Only the faint blue glow of tactical displays illuminated the faces of the officers gathered there. No one spoke above a whisper anymore, because every hour brought another report, another vanished fleet, another dead system, another impossible mystery. A senior analyst flicked trembling fingers through the holographic projections. "Confirmed losses now exceed 32 council vessels," she said quietly. "No survivors recovered." Images appeared above the central table. A destroyed battlecruiser drifting beside a fractured moon, a station corridor covered in frozen ash, a child's toy lying alone in an abandoned habitation sector. Ward stared at the footage, his jaw tightening. "What about human activity?" he asked. The analyst hesitated. "None detected, that was the worst part. Humanity had disappeared almost completely after walking out of the council chambers. Their embassies closed overnight. Their trade fleets vanished from interstellar routes. Entire colonies sealed themselves behind defensive blackout protocols. No threats, no declarations of war, nothing. Just that final transmission repeating endlessly across abandoned frequencies. Return our children." The lights in the chamber dimmed suddenly as another transmission arrived from council space. Displaying recovered surveillance feed, the AI announced. Static flooded the room before stabilizing into grainy security footage from a Varkul military outpost. The camera overlooked a massive docking bay lined with warships beneath crimson emergency lights. At first, nothing moved. Then the shadows shifted. Ward narrowed his eyes. Something enormous emerged from the darkness beyond the station perimeter. A ship, black, angular, almost invisible against space itself. No running lights. No identifiable markings. No engine signatures. It moved like a blade sliding through water. Panic erupted across the footage. Soldiers ran across the hangars. Warning sirens screamed. Defensive cannons rotated toward the unknown vessel. Then every screen in the station simultaneously went white. For 3 full seconds. When the image returned, the station was empty. Not damaged, empty. Ships remained docked perfectly in place. Doors still opened and closed automatically. Steam hissed softly from untouched machinery. But every living being aboard had vanished. A chill crawled through the chamber. One officer muttered a prayer beneath his breath. Then Ward noticed something burned into the main hangar floor. A symbol, simple, ancient, a white human handprint. The room fell dead silent. Because everyone there recognized it. Not from modern records. From forbidden history. Ward felt his pulse quicken as memories surfaced from classified military archives he was never supposed to access. Records sealed beneath planetary-level encryption. Accounts dating back nearly 2,000 years. The handprint was not a military emblem. It was a warning. Used during humanity's final global wars on old Earth. Back when entire cities vanished overnight and oceans burned beneath nuclear firestorms. Before humanity rebuilt itself into the peaceful civilization the galaxy knew today. Before humans learned to fear themselves, a slow realization spread across the chamber like cold poison. The galaxy believed humanity had evolved beyond violence, but evolution was not the same as erasure. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, something ancient had awakened. And for the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer trying to stop it. The Galactic Council believed they had taken hostages, weaknesses, bargaining pieces, children meant to force humanity back to obedience. They never realized that children were the lock. And humanity had just handed the galaxy the key. Deep beneath the frozen crust of Neptune's moon Triton, Captain Elias Ward descended through a shaft older than recorded civilization. The elevator groaned as it plunged into impossible depths, its walls vibrating softly with dormant power awakening somewhere far below. No human maps acknowledged this place existed. No colony records mentioned it. Even Earth's government had erased it from history. Yet the deeper Ward traveled, the more he felt it around him. Something vast stirring beneath centuries of silence. The elevator finally stopped with a metallic thunderclap. Darkness greeted him. Then the lights came alive. One by one, an ocean of towering machines illuminated across the abyss. Ward stepped forward slowly, boots echoing against black steel floors as massive structures emerged from the shadows around him. Endless ship frames stretched into the distance beneath Triton's crust, suspended inside colossal construction cradles kilometers tall. Ancient warships, thousands of them. Silent. Waiting. A voice suddenly echoed through the chamber. Genetic authorization confirmed. Ward froze. The sound did not come from speakers. It came from everywhere. Cold, mechanical, ancient. A red light ignited overhead, casting long shadows across the sleeping fleet. Defense Protocol Helios now active. The floor trembled violently. Dust cascaded from the ceiling as reactors dormant for centuries roared back to life beneath the moon's surface. Across the chamber, Giant docking clamps unlocked with deafening metallic shrieks while streams of blue energy surged through systems untouched for generations. Ward stared upward in disbelief. "This can't be real," he whispered. But deep down, part of him already knew. The truth had always existed in fragments. Hidden references buried inside classified archives. Mentions of continuity safeguards created after the collapse wars nearly destroyed humanity 2,000 years earlier. Back when Earth learned a horrifying lesson. Civilization could disappear in a single generation, unless something survived to protect it. The children had never merely been children. Every human born carried encoded genetic markers hidden within their DNA, living authorization keys tied to ancient defense systems scattered across the galaxy. Fail-safes built by a terrified humanity that swore never again to stand helpless while extinction approached. The systems remained dormant for centuries because the activation conditions were impossible. Until now. Until human children were seized by a foreign power. A holographic figure suddenly appeared before Ward. A tall woman formed from flickering blue light, dressed in the uniform of old Earth's long-dead military command. The AI, her eyes locked onto his. "Human continuity threat confirmed," she stated calmly. "Primary defense fleets awakening across all hidden sectors." Around them, the giant warships began moving. Ward felt the vibrations through his chest as engines larger than cities ignited one after another beneath the moon's crust. Ancient symbols illuminated across black armored hulls, while automated factories surrounding the docks erupted into motion. Somewhere far above Triton's frozen surface, entire sections of the moon split open, and from the darkness beneath, the fleet emerged. Across the galaxy, similar awakenings erupted in secret. Dead planets cracked apart to reveal buried shipyards. Asteroids unfolded into weapons platforms. Silent stations hidden inside nebulae came online after millennia of dormancy. The galaxy watched in horror as impossible objects appeared from places believed lifeless. Then came the transmission. Every military frequency, every civilian channel, every world. One message. One image. A colossal black warship floating beyond Earth's orbit, so massive it eclipsed entire fleets around it. Its hull carried no decorative markings, no diplomatic insignia, only a single white handprint stretching across its armored surface like the scar of an ancient god. Beneath it, glowing in cold white letters, appeared the vessel's name, the Wrath of Sol. And for the first time since humanity entered the stars, the Galactic Council understood what it had awakened. The battle began in complete silence. No declarations of war, no final negotiations, no heroic speeches echoing across open channels. Just darkness, then the stars themselves split apart. Beyond the orbit of Pluto, the Galactic Council's Grand Armada emerged from hyperspace in waves of burning blue light. Thousands of warships stretched across the void in perfect military formation. Carrier fortresses, antimatter cruisers, planetary siege platforms, all advancing toward Earth beneath the banners of galactic authority. To the Council commanders, victory still seemed possible. Humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, cornered inside its own system. At least, that was what their scanners told them. Captain Elias Ward stood aboard the Wrath of Sol as crimson warning lights pulsed across the bridge like a heartbeat. The colossal vessel vibrated beneath his boots, not from fear but restrained power. Around him, human officers moved with terrifying calm, their faces illuminated by tactical holograms showing enemy fleets flooding the outer system. No one panicked. No one raised their voice. That silence unsettled Ward more than chaos ever could. Ahead of the command deck windows, the ancient human fleet waited motionless in the darkness. Black warships stretched endlessly across space, their armored hulls reflecting faint sunlight from distant Sol. They looked less like ships, and more like weapons left sleeping for too long. A transmission suddenly pierced the bridge speakers. The face of High Executor Malvec appeared in flickering holographic static, his silver ceremonial armor glowing beneath council insignias. "Human command," he declared coldly. "Stand down immediately and surrender all unauthorized military assets. Your species has violated interstellar peace accords and—" Ward muted the transmission. The executor's voice vanished instantly. A younger officer nearby swallowed nervously. "Sir, Council fleet is charging main weapons." Ward stared at the tactical display. Somewhere inside those enemy formations were the stolen children. Scared, confused, waiting. He felt rage pressing against his ribs like something alive trying to escape. But when he finally spoke, his voice remained perfectly steady. "Recover our children," he said quietly. The fleet moved, and the galaxy witnessed horror. Human warships accelerated without visible propulsion, tearing through space with impossible precision. Gravity itself bent around them. Entire council formations shattered before their targeting systems could react. Then the first human weapon fired. A pulse of white energy crossed the battlefield, and a council dreadnought simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris. One moment it occupied space. The next, nothing remained. Panic erupted across enemy channels. Council fleets unleashed antimatter barrages capable of sterilizing planets. But human ships glided through the firestorm like predators moving between raindrops. Some vessels vanished entirely before reappearing inside enemy formations at point-blank range. Boarding alarms echoed across council carriers. Then came the humans. Not in armored drop pods, not in mechanized assault craft. They crossed open vacuum itself. Black-clad figures launched from human warships using magnetic thrusters, smashing through armored hulls with terrifying speed. Helmet visors glowed white against the darkness as they carved through corridors toward detention sectors. Toward the children, Ward watched battlefield feeds flooding the bridge. A human soldier carrying 2 terrified children through burning hallways. Another shielding civilians from decompression with his own body. A medic dragging wounded aliens alongside rescued human prisoners. Because even now, humanity refused to become monsters completely. Then the council tried to run. High Executor Malvec's flagship pivoted toward hyperspace escape vectors as the battle collapsed around them. Massive engines ignited, preparing the jump that would carry the surviving leadership beyond Sol. Ward's eyes narrowed. "Target locked," an officer announced. Silence filled the bridge. Everyone knew what weapon waited beneath the wrath of Sol. Forbidden, ancient, unused for centuries. Ward looked one final time at the rescue feed showing human children safely recovered aboard evacuation ships. Then he gave the order. A beam of collapsing stellar energy erupted from the heart of the vessel. Space itself screamed. The light consumed the flagship whole, splitting the massive station-sized warship clean through its center before continuing into the darkness beyond. For one blinding second, the battlefield looked like a second sun had been born inside the Sol system. Then came silence again. Burning debris drifted slowly through space. Broken fleets retreated, and across every surviving channel in the galaxy, one truth became undeniable. Humanity had not forgotten how to wage war. It had merely chosen not to. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy arrived at Earth in silence. No war fleets, no banners of conquest, only a handful of diplomatic vessels drifting carefully through the ruined edges of humanity's defense perimeter, beneath white surrender lights. Their hulls still carried scars from the conflict, burn marks, fractured armor, emergency repairs barely holding against vacuum. The surviving leaders of the Galactic Council had come to negotiate. But as their ships descended toward Earth, none of them spoke, because the Sol system no longer felt like the heart of a peaceful civilization. It felt like the graveyard of something ancient that had briefly awakened. Captain Elias Ward stood beneath gray skies outside the Earth Recovery Complex, overlooking the Atlantic coast. Rain fell steadily across the massive landing platform, hissing softly against steel and stone. In the distance, shattered fragments of orbital debris burned faintly across the atmosphere like dying stars returning home. The war was over, but the silence afterward felt heavier. Drops of water rolled down Ward's dark uniform as transport carriers descended through the clouds one by one. Their engines glowed dimly against the storm while armed human security forces watched from the perimeter in absolute stillness. No cheering crowds waited, no celebrations. Humanity had won, yet millions across Earth were still mourning. The carrier doors slowly opened, and the children came home. Small figures emerged hesitantly beneath the rain, wrapped in silver emergency blankets. Some cried the moment they saw their families waiting beyond the barricades. Others simply stood frozen in shock, unable to process freedom after weeks of fear and confinement. Then the barriers opened. The sound that followed broke something inside everyone who heard it. Parents running through the rain, children screaming with relief, families collapsing into each other beneath storm-dark skies. Ward watched a little girl clutch her mother so tightly her small hands trembled violently. Nearby, A father dropped to his knees sobbing as his son buried his face against his shoulder. No victory speech in galactic history could ever match the power of that moment, because this was what humanity had gone to war for. Not territory, not power, not revenge. Their children. Behind the reunion zone, the surviving council delegation finally stepped onto Earth soil under heavy escort. Their ceremonial robes hung damp beneath the rain, stripped now of all the arrogance they once carried inside the council chambers. These were beings who once commanded entire star systems with a sentence. Now they looked terrified. Their eyes moved constantly toward the sky, watching, waiting. Because high above Earth's atmosphere, the ancient human fleet still lingered in silence. Thousands of black warships suspended among the stars like sleeping predators. Ward slowly approached the delegation. The wind carried distant thunder across the coastline as both sides stood facing one another beneath the storm. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then one of the council ministers finally found his voice. "We did not understand your species," he said quietly. Ward looked past him toward the family still embracing in the rain. "No," he replied softly. "You didn't." Another flash of lightning illuminated the clouds overhead. The minister swallowed hard. Will humanity seek retaliation? The question lingered between them, a question every civilization in the galaxy was asking now. Ward remained silent for several seconds, because deep down, part of humanity wanted revenge. After what had happened, that darkness would always exist. But humanity also remembered the cost of becoming monsters. Finally, he looked back at the delegation. "You thought our kindness meant weakness," he said calmly. "You mistook restraint for surrender." The council leaders lowered their eyes. And somewhere high above the storm clouds, the colossal shape of the Wrath of Saul slowly turned away from Earth. One by one, the ancient warships followed it into the darkness between stars, vanishing silently into hidden sectors beyond known space, returning to sleep, but not disappearing. Never again. The rain continued falling as Earth's city lights illuminated across the horizon like millions of stars reborn. And across the galaxy, a single truth settled into history forever. The most terrifying species in existence is the one that fights only when it has no other choice.